Hello everybody, welcome to another session. Today I'm going to be talking about building stuff from scratch within Revit. So for topic for today, I'm going to show you 4 things how to create everything from scratch. The first I'm going to show you is how to create fixed schedule. Second, I'm going to talk about how to create louvers using only Curtainwall panel. Third, I'm going to show you guys how to create like a simple canopy. And fourth and finally, I'll show you how to build a detailed stud wall family. Let's get started. So the first thing you want to do if you're building a fixed schedule, first you select the family. The next thing I want people to do is that you choose the one called generic annotation. And all you have to do in this is just to draw a circle. Okay, just delete the stuff out there. Just draw a little magical circle with nothing in it. Okay. Next, once you've done that, let's go to a project. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a drafting view and call this cell table. And normally I would typically tell people like do not delete. Okay. If someone questioned that, just tell them that it's used for fixed scheduling. Okay, I'm gonna load that family 1. Just place it there. And in here, annotation, I'm just gonna call this cell table. Okay, just make it easier. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna copy this multiple. Let's say you can array this if you want. Okay, let's assume that I want to array this. So what I'm going to do is that I want to array, let's say from here to there, and let's say I want it to be 12. Okay, you can ungroup it if you want to, but if you want to keep going, that's fine. Okay, for now I'm just going to do that. Next thing I'm going to do is that once I array that, you want to choose the schedule and say note block. You're going to choose the table, and here this is where you're going to put in whatever name you want. Let's say this is going to be my door schedule. Okay, once you have it in here, you notice that there's count and type. Here, this is what you're going to do. You're going to add in parameters. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all instance, door number, door, text, it's going to be door location. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to create door length, door width, door height. I typically put it as an instance. Now you have to be careful because if you put type, you have to get rid of it. This one, you see that once I put type, there's no way you can actually do anything. So what you have to do is that you have to hit delete again. Door width, make sure they're all instance. Then next thing I would do is I just say door thickness, instance parameter again, door type. This one I would just put a text instance. Let's see, what else do we put in? Frame type probably. And put it in an instance. Let's say you have that, and once you have it, you notice that those are easily created. You can go in there and fill in your number. Let's say this is 1. It's gonna say you want to ungroup it. Just ungroup all of it. I would typically just go into this drafting view and just ungroup. Just go ungroup this. Okay, so you have each individual cell. When you click on this, you notice that all those informations are put in. This is very, very effective. The nicest thing about this is that if you want to add more rows, all you have to do is just create more, and this thing would just increase it. You see that 1 here, and then there's another 1 there. So those are basically how I do door schedule. Now in this particular case, if you want to do other stuff, for instance, if you want to highlight this area to be color, one thing I would do is that you can say go formatting. There's also one called the conditional formatting. So here, what I would typically do is that you want to add a condition. Let's say if you want to put this in color, I would add in a yes and no. Call this color. Okay, I'm gonna go instance, color role, for instance. Okay, put it in there. And then what you're gonna do is that for each of these conditions, I'm gonna go color role equal to yes and give it a color. So let's assume that I'm gonna color red. You're gonna do the same thing for all the conditional format. Say color role equal to yes, and just put that same color. You do the same thing. Oops, do the same thing. Conditional format, color role equals to yes. Now the unfortunate thing about this is that conditional format only works with one type of color. You cannot put multiple. I wish there is a way so you can make this thing more into like a Christmas tree kind of a color theme. The unfortunate thing is that you only can do it once. So yeah, just pick your color wisely. Once you have this thing done, you can just basically pick yes or no. So now what I'm going to do is just finally color role equals to yes and put that color. Say OK. All right. Right now you notice that it says yes. Okay. If I uncheck it, you notice that you can turn off the color. A certain one, the reason why the color didn't format it correctly is because I've conditional format. You see that I haven't done it properly. So say color role equals yes. And there we go. So that's how you do it pretty easily. This gives people kind of a chance to modify what they want. This is conditional format, color role equals yes. Now in this particular one, what I typically do is that if I want to hide something, I typically put it as a yellow color so that you can actually hide this. The reason why I like to do that is because when someone say click on hidden, not this one, but uncheck this, sometimes you don't know what should be hidden. So my suggestion for user, if you want certain things to be hidden, I always like to color it red or some other colors just to tell people that you need to hide that role. But other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. Once you have it set up, yeah, just when you check on it, it will work. In a certain part, it will glitch out. I'm not sure why, but it is what it is. I would say clear all again, and then say color role equals yes. And then when I click on it, yep, it works now. Good. So that's pretty much it, how to do the first part. And the other thing I always do is that you can assume that you want to create like a blank role. What I typically do is that rather than adding in more value, I would basically choose the calculated. Okay, I always use, if you want to, let's say, copy a value from certain one and leave it blank, the first thing I would do is I would say, this is, let's say, clone column. And then the only thing I have to reference to is that just reference to one of the, let's say I assume that I want to reference to that door type and hit OK. And what you have is that you just have a clone. And then what you can do is that with that clone is you can create one, not parameter, just keep doing it and say I want text and reference to it to clone column. And then you can say this is clone column number 2. So in theoretically, if you want to leave this blank, just keep it like, let's say user wants to fill out or leave it as a blank. This is how I would do blank columns. So I just reference it to another column. That way, the worst thing about this is that if, let's say this is A1, this column will also get A1. So it's referencing to that. So if you want to leave it blank, I would typically create a parameter that's blank. And all these clone columns are basically referencing to that. When will you use blank columns? That's a good question. What typically happen in some cases is that you're going to have a schedule that's going to be totally blank, and the other values is going to be filled in by another schedule referencing to, let's say, an area plan or something. In my cases, if you want to do like your schedule that report multiple function, let's say you have one area that calculates the unit, the other count is calculating parking. Sometimes what happens with Revit is that it doesn't reference area and parking together. So what we typically do is I create that blank column, and this is where the blank column becomes the fill-in column for those values. Okay, I hope that kind of makes sense to you. If you don't, just let me know. I'll probably next time in the future I'll show you how that works, so it makes it a little bit understanding. For now, I'm just going to say if you want to reference to create a clone column, this is how you do it. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Create louvers using Curtainwall panel. All right. This is pretty easy and straightforward. The first thing you want to do is just create a curtain wall. Okay, I'm just gonna create a curtain wall and have it, let's say, 200 millimeters. The first thing I would do with this is I would duplicate it and call this is Louver. Now, the first thing I want to do with this for the curtain panel, you want to select empty panel. Okay, join condition doesn't matter. Automatically embedded, yes, I want to do that. First thing you want to do is that let's do like a vertical mullion. So the first thing I would do is that I would say vertical grid, fixed distance. Let's give it like 100, for instance, for now. And then for the vertical mullions, let's go square. Okay, let's change it to this. 150 and 150. In horizontal mullion, the interior, I would choose something that is square. Okay, just give it a very. This could be angle. I'll probably gonna show you how to do the angle one later on. But for now, let's do it this way. So let's put that one. Border type. I would choose this and choose that. Okay, so the only thing that's changed is only the interior. Okay, and what happened is that right now, ooh, there we go. Okay, it's very nice. Now, if you want to make that that louver angle, the first thing you do, let's go into your curtain wall, mullion. Okay. There's like a mullion there. Go to rectangular. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this and say this is going to be angle louver. And in here, this is going to be where you're going to change it. So here I'm just going to go 50 is too much. Let's say 25. So let's say 25 divided by 2. 25 divided by 2. And in here, the angle, I'm just going to say it's going to be 15 degrees. Okay. Now what I can do now is that I can change this, edit type, go in here and just change it to angle louver. Okay. There we go. If you want to change the angle, next thing you can do is that you can say, okay, this one I want 25. I want to make it a little bit longer. So let's say assume that it's 100. There we go. Now, the nicest thing about this is that whenever I choose this, you notice that it automatically fills those thing in. So those are basically very simple stuff. So I usually do this if I don't have anything. The nicest thing about this is that you can create a wall, generic, and go to the plan. I should align this just so that it's much easier to And you can just say move it there, and voila. Pretty quick, pretty easy. That's what's embedded. So if you have this on automatically, it will cut through the, let's say this is 1 meter. So if you don't have this thing cut, it will not cut. Okay, if you turn this off, and let's say I'm gonna move away, and then you're gonna align it, it will give you an error. Okay, you see that it's gonna give you an error. It won't do it. So I typically click on automatic embed, then it automatically will cut into it. Okay, hopefully that's a quick trick that everybody knows how to use or do. Okay, next one I'm going to create is a simple canopy. Okay, so what we're going to do is choose the roof. Okay, it's going to say, nah, just keep it level 1. I'm just going to say no. Next thing you want to do is that you want to create a slope glazing. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to basically say, okay, no slope. And here I'm just going to go canopy. Canopy. So what you're going to do in here is that you can go grid 1 and grid 2. Now it's going to go one way or the other. So you could choose one or the other at the beginning, and then later on we can adjust it accordingly. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose fixed distance and make it 4 feet. Okay, grid 2 I'm just going to leave it alone. Again, this one I'm just going to choose the same. Okay, choose the same border, and that's the border. This one, again, I'm just going to pick the same. And when you hit OK, you notice that it's going to create that particular pattern. Now, if you want to keep this mullion, or this, let's go to level 2, okay, canopy, to be on the center, one thing you could do is that here, there's a beginning, change it to center, and it automatically center those position. And if you want to put like a slope, you can say define slope, not 30 degree, let's say 5 degree. It's going to tell you there's an error. Actually, I should do the other way. So this is not define slope, this one define slope. So let's go 1 degree. It's going to always tell you that error. I don't know why, but automatically it would generate that. Okay, so this is how I would create a very simple canopy. Nothing to it. Pretty easy and straightforward. Okay, the next one. It's going to be very, very interesting one. It's going to build the detail stud wall, much like this. So what I'm going to do is let's open up a new family. So the first thing I'm going to choose is choose the generic model. Okay, there's nothing in there. So if we want to build a stud wall, so the first thing I want to do is that I'm going to open up my library. Okay, I'm going to choose the US Imperial. The reason why is that I'm more familiar with the US. So what you're going to do is that you're going to choose the structural framing, choose the light gauge, and then what you're going to do is that, okay, let's choose that one. Let's choose that one. I think this is the channel, but we're going to use the joist. So the first thing you're going to do is that you're just going to load it to your family 2. Okay. Next thing you're going to do, go to the front, create a height. I'm going to go to unit, change it to feet. And here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose 6 feet. And create an instance parameter called height. Next thing you want to do is that you want to click on component and draw it here. Okay. You're not going to see it until you turn on Find. Okay, this is what it looks like. Next thing you want to do is that you want to tie that information, okay, the height, reference elevation to the height. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to change that to height, so that if you change this to, let's say, 8 feet, notice that it automatically changed the height. That's good. Now the other thing you could do is that you could change the size of this by referencing it, but for now I'm not going to do anything, but I'll leave that up to you whether you want to attach this length and width. Okay, you can add that if you wanted to, but here I'm just going to show you how to do a very simple one. Once you have it in here, the next thing you want to do is open up a new family, but make sure before I do anything, there is a family one. I'm going to close that just in case. So here, choose the curtain wall. Okay, choose the curtain wall panel. Okay, next thing you're going to do with this is you want to create interior and exterior offsetting. So if you ever built any family, curtain wall family can be very complicated and very tricky. So what I typically like to do is I like to add in the interior and exterior offset. So this is how I would typically do it. First, give it a straight. Give it like a perfect number. So here I'm gonna go is exterior offset, interior offset, int offset. And then now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the family 2 that you did and you're gonna load it into the family 3. Okay, this is where we going to adjust to that, but before I do that, let's go to exterior. You want to create a dimensions. Okay, you could do this, but I'd rather if you select the reference plane to reference plane. Okay, if you select level to that and say this one you want to create a parameter, what tends to happen is that when you attach that parameter to, let's say, that stud wall, it sometimes will break. Okay, so the best bet is reference it to reference plane and not to the level. Next thing you want to do is that you want to create one and go report parameter. So here what I'm going to do is I want to report height. Okay, simple as that. Next thing you want to do is you want to attach this to here and basically lock it, and then here to here and then lock it. Now back then I forgot to mention is that if you want to create extra parameter in here that references to this, it's a good idea to do it. The reason why I set that is because later on I'll show you why. So here I'm just going to add a parameter here. So this is going to be stud width, and then this is going to be stud depth. That's the only two I'm going to reference to. The rest I'm not really worried about. Now the reason why I like to do that is because here I'm going to say stud width, stud depth. If you want to change it, you can change it, stud depth. Okay, since this particular stud only has a reference plane of this particular area, what I like to do here is that I like to create a parameter right here and reference it to that stud. So here what I would like to do, I'll just give it a perfect number so that nothing gets missed. Okay, that's what I like to do. Okay, once you have that, the next thing you want to do is that you want to array. Okay, now within the array I like to put the last. Okay, and now default number is 2. That's fine. So I like to go from this particular area to that particular area. Okay. Now here, what I like to do is that I like to add a parameter. But before I do that, the trouble with this is that whenever I do an offset, let's say for example, I put 0, 0, you notice that this thing's not going to move, only that moves. So it's a good idea when you do array, when you have the to number, what I like to do is that make sure you lock this and you lock it to a reference plane. So that way, when you go, let's say 0, 0, you see that moves. And then now, what you want to do is that you want to apply a parameter to this. So this is like number stud, instance parameter. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to do this and click on report parameter, report width. Okay. And let's go to exterior. Okay, you're not going to see it until you hit find. You notice that right now it's not attaching to that. Why is it? So next thing you want to do is that you want to edit the group, click on this, and you have this height, and then attach this to reporting height. Okay, there we go. So both of them are going to be the same. Now, what if you want to fill in this gap? How would you do it? Next thing you want to do is that you want to create a offset parameter. So let's say stud is going to be 16 inch. So I'm going to create a parameter called stud off center, OC. So in here, let's say by default is 16 inches. You could do 2 feet or 12 inches. That's basically the typical how we could do construction. The next thing you want to do is that you want to take the report divided by that equals this number. So what you're going to do here is that you're going to go report width, okay, divided by stud OC. It tells you it's going to be 7. So this is how you basically do it. Okay. Now, how to flex it? So let's assume that this is going to be 2 feet. There we go. Good. And then 1 feet. There we go. You're going to have 10. So let's say 16 inch on center. Perfect. Now, what you're going to do now is let's change the offset to 0, 0. Perfect. Everything moves. So now what you can do is that you can load it into your project. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a wall. Again, I'm going to use the curtain wall. Here, I'm just going to go 2 meters, for instance. I'm going to call this stud 3D. Okay. Here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to choose my family 3. Okay, I didn't name it in, but there we go. Now, if you want to add like the sill and top sill, what I typically do is that I would use this, duplicate it, and let's say this is going to be 2 by 6 or 1 7/8 by 5.5. And then here, what I'm going to do is that it's going to be, this is going to be 5.5. I'll keep it to center and say that equals 1 7/8 of an inch divided by 2. And I'm just going to copy that. Everything's good. So here, what I'm going to do is that for those stud 3D, the horizontal, the border one, I would basically say put it in there, put it in there, and the same thing is here. There we go. So you have a stud now. Okay, there we go. Now if you want to do an opening, this is the nicest thing, is that let's assume that you want this opening and you want to do it somewhere here and somewhere here, and then you don't want this Come on. There we go. And I'm going to pick that off. It's going to say delete it. That's fine. Nope, cancel. It's this part I want. Select that and end it, delete it. Now, nicest thing about this now is that you can say, okay, this is, let's say 400. Let's say 500 is fine. And then if you want to add another grid, which I'm going to do, delete. And then now here, I'm just going to unattach that and change it to empty panel. There we go. So you have a stud wall that can do whole different yards. All right, that concludes our presentation. If you guys want this family, I'll probably share this family online so that you guys can have, guys can play with this. I'm gonna make this this whole family available so you guys could just use it. There's a cell table you can use, there's a canopy you can use, and then there's a stud wall you can use as a reference family. All right, hopefully that's a pretty good presentation for you guys, and happy holidays whenever you are. See you back next year. Bye-bye.